All right, hey people. Today is November 22nd, 2024. It's 10:30 p.m. My name is Chris Lucas. This is my show, The Process View. I am going to be having a new channel sometime. I don't even know if I want to tell people what my new channel is going to be. I'm still debating that because some people think I care about having views, and I do care about having views. But I don't do these things to get views and attention. There's things I could do in my life that would get me a lot more money, a lot more views, and a lot more positive attention than trying to do videos to wake people up about truths, right? Anyway, so this is an open mic show today. I will be having some special guests on around 2 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to just be talking about various things, the election, America, Bible prophecy, and we'll be doing this around 2 o'clock on Saturday. So that's 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right? Anyway, I'm just going to play some clips because this is a random show. No one probably knows I'm even doing it. So here we go. Just some random clips I found on the internet.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wake Up Call channel. I'm doing this video for the obvious reasons. As you just heard out of Donald Trump's own mouth, I'm no Christian. Now, I know a lot of Christians don't refer to themselves as Christians these days because they don't want to be lumped in with a lot of the lukewarm church that accepts a lot of the depravity going on in the world. But the term Christian, we all probably have used at some point in time, and we know that most people use it to describe their faith in Jesus Christ. Some of us call ourselves followers or disciples of Jesus Christ. Others call themselves Christians. And for Donald Trump to come out and say, I love you, Christians, but I'm no Christian, how much more do you actually need to hear? It's funny that he said that, and that's the old Freudian slip. So much truth in that statement. But if Donald Trump came out, because it's what's funny about it is I've been saying this recently, if he came out wearing a Baphomet shirt, saying that he worships Satan, most of these idol-worshiping Christians would not believe it. They would say that he's joking. If he came out and said, I am now making the mark of the beast an authoritative thing, that everybody needs the mark of the beast to be able to buy or sell, Christians would probably say what? He's probably trolling. Authoritative thing that everybody needs the mark gotten to in our society where they could literally say it out of their own mouths. He could read to you the poem 100 times about him being the snake, and these people still don't get it. And there's 2 reasons I'm still doing the work that I'm doing here on YouTube. The first reason is to wake up the dead asleep, the people out there who don't have any idea about any of this stuff, to bring them in, to start peeling the layers back so that they can go on a mass awakening. Because the years and years and years of programming we've all been put under, it takes time to peel the layers back. And that's why I start with signs and symbols and common sense. The second reason I continue to do this is because seeing Christians, our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, get led astray, get walked off a cliff, bothers me. It bothers me. And I'm not sitting here and saying I'm a more righteous Christian than anybody else. I've never said that. I don't believe I'm a better Christian than anybody else. But I'm very good with discernment and seeing through bullcrap. And Donald Trump, I am not 99.9% sure. I'm not 99.999% sure. I am 100% sure and have been since this started. And everybody who follows my channel or has followed it knows since he emerged on the scene as a presidential candidate, I have said he is compromised. He is an elite. He is a billionaire. He has been a part of Hollywood. He rubbed shoulders with all these people. He didn't suddenly turn on them. They needed a character that people would get behind, so much so that they would be able to manipulate these people into doing things they would never be able to manipulate them into doing. And look where we're at now, 8 years later. Look where people are defending this man who says that he loves Christians, but he's not a Christian. Yet, if he's not a Christian and a follower of Christ, who intervened? Who that divine intervention that he was talking about with that bullet? Why is it that we're not hearing so much about that staged assassination anymore? Because too much evidence is showing that it looks completely staged. You know, like when he says my hand was covered in blood and every single photo shows no blood on his hands. How many things can Christians ignore to this point and just really, come to the realization that you're being duped, that he's one of them? I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I am a follower and lover of Christ, period. And none of us want to see any of you get duped. It's okay that you were duped and you were wrong. We've all been duped in life. I was duped. I went through school. I went through college. Total waste of time. Total waste of life. I accepted the fact that I was duped. Just like everybody out there following Trump needs to accept the fact that he is one of them. And what's coming, you heard in that speech. You heard him tell everybody out there that this is the only time you'll ever have to vote. He tells Christians, you have to vote because we'll have it fixed. Everything's going to be fixed and better in the future. And you won't have to worry about voting again. Sounds a lot like a dictatorship. But if you ask a lot of these Christians, they would sign up for a Trump dictatorship. That's how insane the psychosis has got. Now, the other thing that I'm very fearful of in regards to what's happening with Trump, and most of you know that I've been leaning towards a Democrat being placed in a position, a Democrat being placed in as the next president. I believed it was Biden. I didn't think Kamala was even an option at that point because I didn't think anybody would believe there was any chance. But it does make somewhat of more sense. But I did believe a Democrat would be placed in. But either way, whoever they put in power is part of their plan. And it's going to move forward after the fake elections on November 5th. And the stuff with Donald Trump in Israel is what scares me more than anything. Watching Christians literally get in bed with the synagogue of Satan, not understanding that Israel became a state in 1948. It's a creation of the Rothschilds. The term Israel in the Bible does not mean this.
I'm going to stop it there because I really disagree with what this guy's saying about Israel and the Rothschilds. It's kind of insane that, that people put so much focus on Israel. Israel's a little tiny country that just came to existence in 1967, and it's not really a threat. The people who put so much focus on it just want to distract from the Vatican being the primary focus. So this video, I didn't really vet it. I just wanted to basically catch the beginning of it where Trump was saying he's not a Christian, right? Because I thought that was significant. But when people are starting to say that, oh, we got to focus on Israel and let's get scared of Israel. No, Donald Trump has a whole cabinet of Roman Catholics, and we shouldn't forget that the Pope, he's the papal vaccine campaigns offered punishments and rewards 200 years ago. The Vatican was the first to even start all this nonsense. And we see that Donald Trump has a Roman Catholic wife. We see that Donald Trump, during his first term, nominated almost nothing but Roman Catholics to office, right? And these weren't just any old Roman Catholics. Like, it was like Catholics you knew that were deep state. Like, it's not like these were unknown names that no one ever heard about. It's like, Amy Coney Barrett had sided with lockdowns right before Trump nominated her to Supreme Court, right? William Barr looks like he covered up what was happening in Mena, Arkansas with Bush and Clinton running drugs in and out of Mena, Arkansas, and Reagan. So, It's not like Trump was nominating all these like really good people. Yeah, so Bjorn says Chris Lucas, President Trump never quoted the Bible yet. He is selling the Christian Bible. Trump, live immortal lifestyle. He's playing the U.S. Christian He's playing the U.S. Christian Protestant. Has fools of wolves in sheep's clothing. So I think he might be using voice type. So he's probably saying that that he's playing the Christian Protestants as fools, and Trump's a wolf in sheep's clothing, which I agree with 100%. Because that's the thing people kind of forget about when he was So I mean, in in the video I just played, he says he's not Christian, but I remember watching Trump in I think it was the 2016 New Hampshire town hall, as he's telling everyone he's going to run for president or is running for president. And Donald Trump is at that town hall and he goes, and one of the last things he says is that he's Protestant. I'm like, wow, that's really unique. I never noticed any president that has ran in the last 20 years come out and say, "Oh, I'm Protestant." So to me, when I had all these friends of mine that were working in his campaign and were telling me, "No, Chris, I'm telling you what, Trump is different this time." I see he's saying those things. And I'm hearing all this like Q nonsense before Q was even a popular thing, right? People tell me, "Oh, but he's working with all these people and like he's working with all these people behind the scenes and he's going to bring down the deep state and all this other stuff," right? And you know how when they keep saying, like, I've had these people on several different channels tell, after they boot me off their channel, they're like, "Chris, one of these days, you keep saying Trump's part of the deep state, but Chris, I'm telling you, one of these days you're gonna look at your phone and it's gonna you're gonna see all these people going to jail and it's gonna be talking about indictments and everything." And it's like, dude, come on, man. Like this, like I don't think that stuff's gonna ever happen. But that's the kind of things I was being told about people that I had known for like years, and they're sitting here working on his campaign, telling me, "Oh yeah, this guy really is gonna be legit." And so when you're hearing him say he's a Protestant and all that, it's like, okay, maybe, it's like. But my whole thinking behind that in 2016 was that either Trump is legit or they're pulling out all the stops to fool people. And if they're pulling out all the stops to fool people, then they got something really big planned. That's why I wasn't surprised when 2020 happened. And so it's always really weird to me when he goes, I'm a Protestant," but now he's saying that he's not Christian, but yet you got all these people still claiming that he is Christian when he just told you in that clip he's not Christian. It's like, so what is it? Is he Christian or is he not Christian? I wonder where that clip went. Oh, I want to go back and play it one more time.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm not Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote. I love you, Christians. I'm not Christian. I'm not Christian. I'm not Christian. I'm not Christian.
Welcome.
So right there, he's clearly saying he's not Christian, right? Yet he told us back in 2016 he's a Protestant. Isn't a Protestant a Christian? but he says he's not Christian. I know Catholics would probably be like, oh yeah, Trump was right about that one. So Trump's right. He's not a Christian, but he's married to a Catholic wife, nominating nothing but Catholics. And I don't trust him, and I just wonder if there's some kind of just a very dark plan about ready to be unleashed on people, and people will just seem unaware of it. I gotta tell you the truth. I'm really tired, and I don't know how long I'm going to do a show for.
In recent months, our nation and the entire planet has been struck by a new and powerful, invisible enemy.
5 million Americans infected by COVID-19. More than 170,000 Americans have died.
Like those brave Americans before us, we are meeting this challenge. We are delivering life-saving therapies and will produce a vaccine before the end of the year, or maybe even sooner.
We must make sure that the vaccines are affordable.
We will defeat the virus, end the pandemic, and emerge stronger than ever before.
You can't get this country going again unless you get COVID under control.
In recent months, our nation and the world has been hit by the once-in-a-century pandemic
The worst pandemic in over 100 years.
that China allowed to spread around the globe. They could have stopped it, but they allowed it to come out.
We will never get our economy back on track. We will never get our kids safely back in schools. We'll never have our lives back until we deal with this virus.
There will be no return to the old normal for the foreseeable future.
We'll develop and deploy rapid tests with results available immediately.
We have something from Abbott Labs, which is right here, and that's a 5-minute test, highly accurate.
Testing, testing, testing.
What a Biden-Harris administration will do in terms of creating a pandemic testing board to get tens of millions of testing kits where needed.
And it was only the fast approval by FDA that allowed us to do that. It was a really rapid approval.
Anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there. They have the tests. And the tests are beautiful. Anybody that needs a test gets a test.
We'll make the medical supplies and protective equipment that our country needs.
We're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shots.
And then the final solution, which is a year to 2 years off, is the vaccine.
You have no right not to be vaccinated.
Just to head off the conspiracy theorists, maybe we shouldn't call the vaccine the final solution. Maybe just the best solution. Okay.
Yeah, the return to normal solution.
Exactly.
Chart a clear path forward for a safe and effective vaccine.
They have to get their shots.
And guarantee every American, equal access to it by investing $25 billion, which is Joe's plan, $25 billion in manufacturing and distribution.
You have no right not to wear a mask.
We'll have a national mandate to wear masks, not as a burden, but as a patriotic duty to protect one another.
You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you? No right not to be vaccinated? Meaning if they decide you have to be vaccinated, we have to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm.
I often talk about how vaccines are a miracle. They've saved millions of lives. So you can avoid lots of diseases if you've been properly vaccinated.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shot.
And that's why Gavi was created. Gavi came up with the money and a plan to get vaccines out to all the kids of the world.
Gavi operates with great transparency.
Gavi came up with the money and a plan to get vaccines out to all the kids of the world.
As the coronavirus has shown, there are no borders. It doesn't discriminate. It's mean, it's nasty, but we're going to all take care of it together. It's great to be partnering with you. We will work hard. We will work strong. Good luck. Let's get the answer.
Now, we don't want to have a lot of recovered people. We don't want to have a lot of recovered people. You know, to be clear, we're trying through the shutdown in the United States to not get to 1% of the population infected. We're well below that today, but with exponentiation, you know, you could get past that 3 million. I believe we will be able to avoid that with the having this economic pain.
In preparation for this initiative, experts throughout the government have been collaborating to evaluate roughly 100 vaccine candidates. Through Operation Warp Speed, the federal government is providing unprecedented support and resources to safely expedite the trials.
Gavi came up with the money and a plan to get vaccines out to all the kids of the world.
While we accelerate the final phases of vaccine trials, Operation Warp Speed will be simultaneously accelerating its manufacturing processes.
So you can avoid lots of diseases if you've been properly vaccinated.
We're gearing up on the assumption that we'll have in the near future, relatively near future, a vaccine.
Eventually, what we'll have to have is certificates of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person.
God willing, we will have a cure, some therapies, or we'll have a vaccine.
Eventually, what we'll have to have is certificates of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person.
We will have a very successful vaccine, therapeutic, and cure. We're making tremendous progress.
Well, when we have the vaccine, we have the military all lined up, and the military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner. These are people that don't usually do vaccines. They do soldiers, and they do lots of other things that, frankly, are more difficult. But we have our general, and logistically, he's all set.
About vaccines, obviously, everybody in Congress and in this country wants a vaccine. We want it as quickly as possible, as effective as possible.
If we don't get a vaccine, we can test all we want, we can treat all we want, but it will never be the same. We might be in a rut for a long time.
But if we had the vaccine, and we will, if we had therapeutic or cure, one thing sort of blends into the other, it will be a fantastic day. And I think that's going to happen, and it's going to happen very soon.
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
I would imagine that vaccine would be distributed to all people free of charge. We'll make sure at least that everybody in America who needs that vaccine will get it, regardless of their income.
My administration has also taken the most aggressive action in modern history to protect Americans from the coronavirus. You know about this whole thing. Horrible. Today, we met with the big, great pharmaceutical companies, and they're really working hard and they're working smart. And we had a great meeting today with a lot of the great companies, and they're going to have vaccines, I think, relatively soon. And they're going to have something that makes you better, and that's going to actually take place, we think, even sooner. So it's a lot of good things are happening.
About 9% of all children.
You know, when he had this rally, right, he's talking about how he's got vaccines and everything for you. This is on March 2nd of 2020. This is before a pandemic was ever announced. And he's already telling you he's got vaccine for you. Now, on March 22nd, I still have clips of Democrats saying that, oh, it's just a cold, go out to Mardi Gras, go party, it's don't pay that Donald Trump no attention. You know, and this is like people like Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, and all of them, man. Like, hey, Bernie, would you because it was like the Democrat primary was going on, and they asked Bernie Sanders, Bernie, do you think Donald Trump is wrong in saying that he wants to stop people from coming in from China because of the coronavirus? And would you shut down the border? And Bernie's like, no, I wouldn't shut that border down. You know, so people don't say it's the Democrats doing it. This is all Trump. You know, because the Democrats at the time, and I remember this very well because I didn't know what this virus was. I was one of the people that was like pushing out clips in December of 2019 going, guys, do you guys see what's happening in China? This is scaring me, right? Because I didn't know what the heck it was. Like, I'm working like, I don't know, what is it, like 60, 70 hours a week? And I don't have time to watch the news. I don't have time to do any research. And I haven't done any like at that time I hadn't done any serious research for like at least 4 years, right? Because I just had kids and everything, and they were a lot to take care of. So when I came home from work, I didn't have time to go research anything. And I just one day, you know, someone sends me some clips and it's like, Chris, did you see this? You know, and I'm like, whoa, man. So I start talking about it to people. I'm like, man, what is this? And I even sent this out to some friends of mine that were Democrats, and we're like, oh, it's nothing. And you know, and it's like most people, and then it's like, and I just remember, you know, the Democrats at the time, because I'm like, is anyone reporting this on the news? And I would keep checking the news every day when I got home from work. And it's like, I'm like, no one's reporting this. And then I go see a Democrat and they're like, oh, come out to Mardi Gras. It's no big deal. It's just a cold. Oh, that coronavirus, it's no big deal. It just, you know, gets in the air for a little bit and it goes away. And it's just like another cold. And here I go and I'm seeing Donald Trump. And here he is and talking about a vaccine. So he was the one the whole time talking about a vaccine. And people don't believe me. We can even see like throughout all of Donald Trump's first term, here he is, a Bloomberg article from March 10th, 2017. A miracle within Trump's reach, a universal flu vaccine. The president vowed to speed, like warp speed, right? Vowed to speed miracle drug development. But see, remember, universal flu vaccine in 2017. We even have Ivanka Trump. Fact check, this Moderna NIH vaccine is literally the one that President, real Donald Trump, partnered with Moderna to create on January 13, 2020. I repeat, January 13, 2020. Just be happy. This is great news for America and the world. So he's the one who's doing this. And I even have a clip from the 2015 Republican primary, right?
I am totally in favor of vaccines, but I want smaller doses over a longer period of time.
Experts
So
still
we can
encourage
see that
getting.
he said he's totally in favor of vaccines, but he wants smaller doses over a longer period of time. And we see that that was in the 2015 Republican debates, right? So here he is in 2015 talking about boosters, right? The same kind of boosters you see right now, because used to when you got a vaccine, it was only one shot, one time, and you never had to get another shot. And here we go, 2015.
Totally in favor of vaccines, but I want smaller doses over a longer period.
So he wants smaller doses over a longer period of time. I don't know why.
Period of time.
So we see that. So, you know, when all these people keep telling me, oh, Chris, you know, Donald Trump, you know, wasn't really behind this. Well, what is all this stuff? What is this stuff right here? Executive Order 13887, modernizing influenza vaccines in the United States to promote national security and public health. Remember how they kept saying, "Oh, it's a risk if we don't get everyone vaccinated. It's a risk and it's scary and we can't open up America and America can't get back to normal until we get a vaccine." And so here he is, hyping it more on September 19th, 2019. Not to mention, there's like this clip right before this. Let me play this clip.
Jamie Morocker, Global News, Toronto.
This is really going around now. They have to get their shot.
Now, when he said that, this part right here, he goes, it's really going around now. They have to get their shots. This was, I think, in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. It might be 2017. I think it was 2018 around the summertime. And what's going on there is that I had friends that were, they were scared that they had children that were injured by vaccines. Now, whether someone wants to debate whether they really were or not, but my friends believe that their children actually were injured by vaccines. So they promoted Donald Trump because they were under the impression that when Donald Trump ran for president, that he was going to look into this. That's what they were told by either Trump or Trump's people. I can't remember which it was, right? And so they kind of felt a little betrayed when they were asking Trump, hey, Trump, are you going to, Trump, look, man, our governors are taking away vaccine exemptions. Please do something. You sounded like you cared about this issue. You sounded like you cared about our concerns about children that got vaccine injured and about the actual safety of these vaccines. And now they're making us have our children get mandated for get vaccinated for measles. Can you please do something? Can you please, Donald Trump, can you please do something? So what does he say to him? Let's hear what he says to him after these people are asking him, please, Donald Trump, can you please do something for us?
Around now, they have to get their shot.
Oh, he basically said, go to hell. You have to get your shots. That's what he told those people. So these people that supported him, go to hell. You have to get your shots. But I don't care about your anti-vax nonsense or that you think you think your child got hurt. I don't care. They have to get their shots. And then people go, oh, but for COVID, he wasn't going to make them get their shots. Come on now. Come on. If people have to get their shots for something that's not deadly, like measles, right? Then you definitely have to get your shots for the most deadliest disease of all time, which is supposedly COVID. So if you have to get your shots for that, he's going to tell you, you have to get your shots. So he was going to tell you the same thing Biden was going to tell you. You have to get your shots. He's saying that for measles right there. Shouldn't people have a choice right there? So just imagine, so it's still the same exact thing going on. Measles shots, people asking and begging for him to do something. I mean, begging. I think some of these people were actually begging him, please say something, Donald Trump. Please help stop this. And he just tells them, nope, you got to get your shots. You got to get them. So what do you think? So why would it be different from COVID? Why do these people suddenly have this this mental disconnect, this delusion, this cognitive dissonance that, oh, suddenly because it's COVID vaccine, he's not going to tell you to get your shots. No, of course, he's going to tell you, you got to get your shots. There's no proof. These people that are trying to make Trump into some hero, they're very lazy. They don't want to deal with reality, because reality is this dude misspent $10 trillion without doing any kind of cost benefit analysis. And he pushed a vaccine on you. And what's scary to me is that you have all these so-called Christians that are sitting there saying that, oh, he's your savior of the world, right? This guy's the one that's going to save you. And what did he do the last time he was in office? He wasted $10 trillion on this scam. I mean, prove to me that lives were saved, right? That's all I want to say, because there's like these articles. What is it? Yeah, let me just bring up this point. Antibody test. We can see that this was originally the 17th of April 2020. Got updated the 19th, and a correction was done on the 22nd of April 2020. But it had originally came out on the 17th. And look at this. Antibody tests suggest that coronavirus infections vastly exceed official accounts. So down here, it says study estimates a more than 50-fold increase in coronavirus infections compared to the official cases, but experts have raised concerns about the reliability of antibody kits. Now, yes, well, who are these so-called experts like Fauci and all these other people who want to hype this as it's like the greatest plague ever in the history of the world, right? Because we never had to lock down the entire world. So this is like the biggest plague, the greatest plague that's ever happened to Earth, basically. And so that's how these so-called experts are wanting to push this narrative, right? Or to frame this whole argument. But the thing is, so they're going to say, oh, well, the reliability of the antibody tests might not be that accurate, so therefore it might be a lot less cases, which means less cases and the same amount of deaths means it's really deadly. But when it's a 50-fold increase of infections, the deaths didn't suddenly increase 50 times, right? So if it's 50 times the infections, but yet it's the same amount of death, simple math tells you it's 50 times less deadly than what they originally reported. That puts it into the category of a flu, right? The yearly deaths from flu, right? And so Trump sees all this data. Trump's now you got to think. I don't want no one making an excuse for Trump. I'm working very hard at this time, 70 hours a week. My job didn't get shut down because I'm so-called essential. I'm watching you guys take vacation. So even if Trump didn't know, you people should have told Trump this. Because what were you doing all day? Just sitting there playing video games and being stupid. So don't even try. So if you were sitting there and just playing video games, being stupid and not doing any kind of research, you have no business even trying to argue against me, right? Or to be mad at me or anything. I was coming home because I'm actually scared for my children and I'm trying to figure out what is actually going on. And I come home and I read this. I'm like, oh, this is 50 times less deadly. So you got to think I'm out there working, risking my life supposedly because I'm an essential worker. So I'm getting around bunches and bunches of people, right? And these people I'm getting around are also getting around many people. So the chances of me dying should be pretty high, right? So, but now I read this, I'm like, oh, it's 50 times less deadly. So, okay, Trump definitely has this information, right? We're not going to give Trump any excuses for not having this because if me, a stupid, dumb, everyday worker who's working 70 hours a week with no advisors, no one helping me to have this information, I have to go look for it myself. Surely he knows it. And surely, even if he did not know it, which the chances are so slim, like the chances are just stupid. It's like, why did you even vote for him if he's a vegetable? You people who stayed at home and were like, oh, go Trump. You guys should have at least done this research. There should have been some of you that came across this and like, let me take this to the president, right? And show him that it's 50 times less. Let's open up. So Trump did get this information and he had 2 weeks to see this information. So it's like, I saw it when it first came out. Trump had 2 weeks to see it come out because here it is, April 30th of 2020. And he's saying that Sweden's paying heavily for not locking down. So, Trump's bashing people for not locking down. So don't say, oh, he's against the lockdowns. Why is he saying this? See, these people that keep telling you this other reality, they're they're absolutely nuts, or they're liars and they're evil, right? I mean, I don't know what else you could say. Like you're duped, you're stupid, you're delusional. Like I'm not. It's and I don't mind saying this about these people because you know what? You're hurting a lot of people that might not be that bright, and you're telling them this stuff. And if you're someone who's seemingly smarter than someone else and someone else who thinks they're dumber than you is believing you because they think you're smarter, well, you're telling them a lot of bad information. And you do need to be, told all this stuff. So it's like, I don't really feel bad about saying anything. I don't feel guilty. No, I just keep going back to this one, man. Where this kid, I go on his show, and he calls me a propagandist. And you can clearly see my comment right here, right before I go on a show. I might have to end this broadcast soon because I see that everything's bogging down and it's all slow. But I go, you act like Donald Trump wasn't in on forcing this vaccine on America. Just look at the 2015 Republican primary when he talked about booster shots. Plus, he signed the Vaccine Modernization Act. So, see, I showed you guys all this proof right here. He is signing this act on September 19th, 2020. It's on government sites. It's also on this like college site. We can see his daughters talking about being behind it. Everything I said to this guy right here, we see on this screen. We see everything. So we can see that this is not propaganda. Yes, we can see everything that I'm saying is not propaganda. I showed you proof of it, right?
Brother, how about you come in here so I could cook you real quick, brother? You've been running your mouth, brother, and I've been wanting to humble you, brother. Come in real quick, brother. I lost my temper with you. Come in real quick, tough guy. Come in real quick. Come in real quick. You got 1 minute to come in. If not, I'm kicking you out of here. You got 1 minute. You've been running your mouth too much, brother. 1 minute. 1 minute. Step up. You run your mouth all the time, my brother. I have no love for you, brother. I love you in a general sense as a Christian man, but in regard to your politics and the way you've been running your mouth, come in here now. Come in here. I have no love for your stance. So come in here real quick.
He's got no love for truth.
Mod, he has 1 minute. If not, get him out of here. He has 1 minute. 1 minute, because he's spreading a bunch of propaganda. He has 1 minute.
See, this guy's supposed to be a Christian, and he says, I'm spreading a lot of propaganda. But he's the one who is just lying without... And here's the thing about it. He still hasn't even apologized, and he still got me blocked. Now, when you block someone from your chat, why would you block someone from your chat? The only reason why I think someone should block someone from your chat is if they were actually lying. But when I actually show proof, it's like, oh, I made you feel stupid and you're just blocking me and now you're just being all hateful. It's like this guy, he's like a person that there's a lot of people that let him on debate shows and things like that, on Christian debate shows. And it's like, and he tries to act like he's some nice Christian and he's not. And I'm just like so sick of these people. They're so fake and phony. And, it's like, for people who haven't seen this, it's like, I did another show and I don't feel like playing this whole thing. But basically, the guy kept muting my mic and never letting me finish this sentence. And all I did was get to speak 2 sentences, but they weren't even full sentences. They got muted. And then he ran his mouth and then never let me counter what he said. And this is after, because you're thinking, oh, he's going to challenge me. He's going to have me come up there and debate me. And it just makes you wonder. It's like, how many other people has he done that to, where he just mutes their mic, bans them from his chat, never lets them speak, and then has everyone thinking that, oh, he won a debate. And it's like, how does this guy even have 10,000 subscribers. It just makes you think that there's like 10,000 brain dead human beings in this world. But then again, you know, that's what people voted for Trump, right? You know, and there's this video I did called The Strong Delusion After Trump Wins. And I made this like 3 years ago. I think I made this very early in 2021. I might have made this in 2020 and uploaded it in. I think I had made this video a lot earlier and I uploaded it again. So this isn't like the correct time on here 3 years ago. But in this video, I was talking about how Trump misspent $10 trillion. And you can see like on this world meter, how many people die every year of toxic chemicals released into the environment and things like that. And we can see that there are almost 1 billion undernourished people in the world, at least at that time. I haven't looked at the world meter recently. So it would say how many people died of hunger today. 27,000, right? We can see down here people with no access to safe drinking water source. 800 million just about, right? Now, if 800 million people don't have access to safe drinking water, how many diseases and deaths do you think that causes per year? If 800 million people a year do not have such access. And what I was saying in this video is if you took just a tiny portion of that $10 trillion that Donald Trump misspent, and you use that to help provide better drinking water, better nutrition, build up farms and things like that, you could actually reduce a lot of these deaths. You know, 2.5 million children in this world die of hunger. And this is like children under 5 die of hunger. Now, I mean, I would think that normal, any kind of decent human being in the world would rather see a child get fed rather than have them slowly die of starvation, right? Because this isn't like, oh, you die instantly. This is a very slow, it might take a month to die, it might take a couple of months to die of starvation eventually, right? Would you rather have that, or would you rather say, let me take my chances of this virus? I think most people would say, let me take my chances with this virus that doesn't look like it's got a very high mortality rate. It looks like you can survive it if you're given certain things like ivermectin and things like that. It looks like if you're treated with what we already have to treat illnesses with, there's a good chance you can survive. Dr. Pierre Corey said the treatment he used, which was like a combination of, I think, steroids and a few other things. He said once he started using that treatment, he hadn't lost a single patient. So, and Dr. Pierre Corey is a Democrat that was trying to testify in front of the Senate, and Donald Trump never said anything about him. You know, it's like, no, it's like Donald Trump, he wanted his vaccine, you know, it's like, and he was obsessed about the vaccine going out. So he wouldn't bring people like Pierre Corey to attention, right? Because he could have definitely said, hey, Fauci, you're going to sit here and you're going to debate Pierre Corey and a couple of other people who have actually been treating people, because you, Fauci, have not been out in the field treating people. But Pierre Corey, he and several other doctors he knows has to actually treat these coronavirus patients, and they're living. So, Fauci, I demand that you sit in front of him and talk to him live on TV. And Trump could have done that, right? And we don't see Trump doing that. And so there's just like no excuses for anything. So let's see here. Someone said the next Trump administration will most likely be the last of the president electives in the USA. Seems like there's going to be World War III with Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China. Well, I do think there might be a war where they're going to eventually collapse the whole entire system. I was hoping there would be some people that came on my show. I was willing. We don't have to talk about these topics. It could be the Bible or anything, because I think they're all related. Like I think the Daniel 9 prophecy is all related to this. And no, I'm not a futurist. It's just that futurists will take and twist this prophecy and make it about a future Antichrist. And the way I think they're going to deceive people is, it's like, oh, it's not, look, he didn't sign a 7-year treaty, so it must not be the Antichrist. When the language of Daniel 9 doesn't even say it will be a 7-year treaty. It just says sometime within that last week, someone's going to make a covenant. So even if you don't think the prophecy is about Jesus Christ, like I think it's about, who in sacrifice and offering with his sacrifice on the cross, the wording in Daniel's prophecy is just saying that sometime in that last 7 years, someone's going to not make a covenant, because it doesn't have the Hebrew word bara, or I think the other one's a sash or something like that, which means to create. It's got the word, it's got this other word that means strengthen or confirm. So there's no covenant being created, first of all. It sounds like a covenant that's already there, that's being strengthened. And it just says it's going to be strengthened at some point within the 7 years. Now, I think personally that's Jesus strengthening a covenant that was already there with the Jews. A lot of people will try to tell you that's about an Antichrist, but even if it was about an Antichrist, it doesn't say how long that covenant is going to be for, because it just says he will strengthen a covenant, and then there's like a break in there, and then it's like 1 week. Well, what that's basically saying is at some point during that last 7 years, he's going to strengthen a covenant. It doesn't say how long, because that word for 1 week, the word for is not in there. There's no Hebrew word like that. It says he will confirm a covenant for many. There's one before the word many, but there's not a word before. There's not the word for is not before 7 years or a week, right? And so I think people are going to twist that around. I also am kind of kicking around an idea that they might be thinking that since we are in the 6,000th year of Earth's history, if you're a Christian, you go by the Bible and believe in creation, we're almost at the 6,000th year. What if they try to pull a deception to make people think that the millennial reign's about ready to start? All right, like, because it's like, well, the 7,000th year would be the millennial reign, and then suddenly, you got Trump, and everything's going to be so Christian and everything, and look at all these good Christian people he's nominating, and the deep state, and he's going to get rid of all the corruption, and all these people are going to go to jail, and here comes the indictments and all this other stuff, right? What if all that's part of ushering in a false millennial reign of Christ? I kick around that idea. I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen, but I don't trust a guy that didn't do a cost benefit analysis before he spent $10 trillion, and then people want to say, oh, he's a genius. Is that a normal thing for a businessman to do? It's like, I'd be suspicious if someone spent $1 million without doing a cost benefit analysis. This is a $10 trillion, and you didn't do a cost benefit analysis? Like, you guys don't find that weird? Like, and it's like, so he doesn't do a cost benefit analysis. He just signs it out of emotion. That This is very weird to me. So Bjorn says the refugees in the USA will be used to cause civil disorders, and many come from Venezuela, Cuba, and nations are Jesuit controlled. And Trump is an actor selling vaccinations in 2015 before COVID-19 in 2020 has, and with the authority of a nation. I never knew this. Thanks, Chris. Oh yeah. Yeah, he's referring to that Trump, this clip right here where he's talking about booster shots in 2015. I'm pretty sure that's what he's talking about. And also this, a miracle within Trump's reach, universal flu vaccine, March 10th, 2017. And this is Bloomberg News. That's what this is from. Brian Walsh, part of Bloomberg News. See, one of the high points in President Donald Trump's speech to a joint session of Congress last week was his pledge to unleash a new era of drug development, so grand that our children will grow up in a nation of miracles. Yet his main strategy for doing so, slashing Food and Drug Administration regulations, won't solve one of the most pressing health challenges facing the country and the world. But see, that's the thing, they were also getting on Trump about slashing Food and Drug Administration regulations. That makes it a lot easier to push a vaccine through. You know what? That might have been what got me banned, because I pointed that out. But that's not me saying it. I'm just reading this news article, right? And I guess that's like, oh, that could make someone think, oh, it's not that safe. But I'm not the one saying it. If maybe you should ban the Bloomberg News for saying such a thing. If that's what I got banned on. I'm still trying to figure out what this one show I got banned for was all about. And it's like, I'm not, this is Bloomberg News. I'm not the one saying all this stuff. I mean, Trump, slashing FDA regulations. I don't want these new ones. I want old ones. I want ones from like 2017. So here's this magazine called Science, and it says exclusive FDA enforcement actions plummet under Trump. FDA actions that safeguard clinical trials. FDA actions that safeguard clinical trials, food and drug safety, and steep decline, science investigation reveals. This is on July 2nd, 2017. That's weird. Right before he signs the Vaccine Modernization Act in September 19th. So from monitoring clinical trials and approving medicines and vaccines to ensuring the safety of blood transfusion, medical devices, groceries, and more, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is one of the nation's most vital watchdogs. By several measures, however, FDA's compliance and enforcement actions have plummeted since President Trump took office. The agency's warning letter is a key tool for keeping dangerous or ineffective drugs and devices and tainted foods off the market have fallen by 1/3, for example. Such letters typically demand swift corrections to protect public health and safety. FDA records from Trump's inauguration through the 22 of May, so May 22nd, showed the agency issued 1,033 warning letters compared to 1,532 for most of the recent equivalent period under the former President Barack Obama. Compared with the start of the Obama presidency, the Trump era letters dropped by nearly half. So, I mean, that's pretty curious that. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. It's a warning from the FDA Centers for Devices and Radiological Health, which helps ensure the safety and quality of medical devices, and from some of the agency's district offices, including Philadelphia, Florida, and New York, have dropped even more steeply by more than 2/3. 2 district offices have not issued a warning in more than 2 years. The numbers don't just reflect a new administration's slow start. The FDA sent significantly fewer warning letters in the second year of Trump's presidency than his first. And so you can see that there's already this decline in monitoring things. And so do you think they were able to monitor the COVID vaccine as well also? See, no one's bringing this stuff up. Hey, under development team, and Bigfoot sightings are on the increase. What do you think about? Really? Are they really on the increase? Bigfoot sightings. I don't know. Like I know someone that does a channel that talks about them a lot, and it's I wish I could even think of his channel's name, and I just send you that because it's like I just don't like to deal with. I don't know. I don't think much of like Bigfoot, to be honest. It's a thing that just doesn't. It's not interesting to me at all. I'm more into like what's about ready to happen to people. What should people be awake to? And I'm not really worried about Bigfoot. I'm more worried about the people that are controlling our government. And to be honest, I mean, it's just this delusion. Like this, when people talk about Trump and think he's like some hero, and just knowing that everyone he's around is Roman Catholic, and that here's this Catholic Church that was, the Vatican's backing the first punishments and rewards for vaccines 200 years ago. And here's Trump with a Catholic wife bowing to the Pope, pushing the same agenda. His daughter is meeting with, his daughter, Ivanka Trump, is good friends with Chelsea Clinton. And I don't know why you'd be friends with someone that is pushing, like, okay, if you're supposedly like you care about America, and so this just kind of shows you that the entire Trump family is not very patriotic, because it's like, okay, you care about America, you should care about free speech and all these rights we have and that are protected by our Constitution. Yet you're friends with this woman, Chelsea Clinton, who's meeting with a pope, which is like one of the most powerful entities in the world. And they're sitting there at the Vatican Council of Culture talking about censoring people on media more. And so here's Chelsea Clinton talking about censorship. You see the entire Vatican Council for Culture clapping and applauding this. You see all these Catholics in high places of government able to pass this sort of legislation, and to just watch people just brush that off, or and to think, it's like it's no big deal that Ivanka Trump is hanging out with her, or that Donald Trump used to give Hillary Clinton checks for her campaign, and Bill Clinton, and then nominated people that also swept everything under the rug. So, right, it's like Brett Kavanaugh looks like he sabotaged the Vince Foster investigation, and Trump nominates him, right? maybe I can get that on here. Yeah, this guy named Dove Ivory. He's I think he wrote a book about this. I can't remember. But he said he boarded the Trump train early on because he had anticipated that Trump would be good for Israel, and so far he's been far better than anyone could possibly have hoped for. But when he nominated Brett Kavanaugh to be appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court last July, I expressed my opinion that this guy is a dreadful choice. My response had nothing to do with the accusations involving sex, then unknown, right? Because they were saying that Brett Kavanaugh had like this some kind of like fling with some woman or something like that. Anyway, so it says he's done 2 books on how Bill Clinton, when he was president, murdered Vince Foster, the deputy of the White House counsel in 1993. The second book I published in July, just as Kavanaugh's name surfaced, and because the murder in this book was one of several subjects, I simply explained why Kavanaugh is a very bad choice, and I left it at that. The second book is called Trump, Israel, and the Alatoya. I can't even pronounce his name right now. I'm a little tired. Alatoya Fruit Loops. I can't believe I can't pronounce that name. But anyway, back in the day, the Clintons quickly trotted out the myth that Vince Foster committed suicide, and the U.S. mass media has, as rotten then as it is today, in the pockets of the Democrat Party, ran with it as gospel. But the Telegraph in the UK sent over Ambrose Evans Pritchard to cover the story properly, and he did a fantastic job in bringing the facts of the case to the public. Alas, there was no internet then, and the Americans had no access to British newspapers. So I'm going to look up this. Actually, I can find this on and then Vince Foster. Maybe someone already has done this and I don't have to talk. So let's see here. You know what? We'll just do this.
Evans Pritchard on Patrick Norton. Go ahead.
Yeah, on Thursday night, after midnight, 12:30, I got a call from him, and he was in a real state.
Yeah.
And he said that they'd been followed. He'd been out with his girlfriend. Went out to dinner from about 8:30 to 10. And there'd been 6, at least, possibly 10 people in a kind of surveillance team. They looked like feds. He said he'd done quite a lot of work over the years as a sort of limo driver dealing with Secret Service and so forth. And he knew the style and the dress. And they were kind of posted along different places along the pavement. And some of them would just cut across him. They'd look at him. Was engaged in sort of low-level harassment. Oh my God. So anyway, he said he even saw one of them talking into the sleeve of his coat. Anyway, I thought, well, this is a bit strange. So I drove down there. Chris happened to be in D.C. And we drove around to see if there's anything obvious going on. He went over to his girlfriend's place, and then Chris actually went up and had a long talk with him.
Oh yeah.
That night.
Yeah. This was Thursday.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
He was a little bit sort of dubious about talking into the sleeve and things like this, but he said, "Well, can I go around with you tomorrow, Friday?"
Mm-hmm.
So he spent some of Friday with Patrick, and I got a call from Chris saying, "You can't believe what's happening."
Yeah.
He said there is a surveillance operation of at least 30 people.
Oh my God.
He said they're driving along in the cars, pulling up just in front of them, and then they're adjusting the mirrors to out. They've got people cutting across in the street.
Where's this guy living now?
He lives on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Oh, really?
Just by.
You know, I tried to find him.
Yeah, it's not easy to find.
Well, I tried to find him. You know, as soon as we got the banking committee documents, I thought this guy looks very interesting, but I had that spelling of his name, and I tried to call the numbers that were in the book, and the number on the downtown number didn't.
Right, that's not a correct number.
Didn't work, and I tried Elton, Virginia, and couldn't get anybody out there. Of course, the name was misspelled. But,
yeah, it took a lot of work to get him.
I have to compliment you. You must be a super detective.
Well,
we've been trying since your article came out to locate him, and we couldn't locate him.
Well, the FBI couldn't either. You know, it took them some time to get him. They had to go to Edland and ask around, and eventually they found him because they, you know, amazingly, they had also, in their own documents, had got him misspelled. All the wrong name.
Who had?
The FBI.
So they misspelled his name too?
The Star people. When they basically didn't have most of the documents they needed, but when they were trying to find him again, they found that the name was wrong and the numbers are wrong, and they didn't have any way of contacting him.
So how did you find him?
Well, I found him by snooping around in Edland.
Oh, you went out to Edland?
Well, you know, it was through that channel. Let's put it that way.
I see, because I called. I got some Knowltons on, and the best closest I could come was Winchester, and they said, well, all us Knowltons are related, but nobody ever heard of Patrick. And,
well, I was calling around to people in the town until you.
Good for you. Good for you.
But anyway, so Chris said that you know he confronted about 3 of them. He ran up to them and sort of made up some story saying, you know, George, did I know you? Don't we know each other in New York or something? See what the reaction was. He also even saw one of them talking into the sleeve, to his classic movie style. And he says he thinks it's really going on. And then last night, I got another call about midnight, and somebody's banging on his door. They got inside the security system in the apartment block. And they're banging on the door and ringing the bell, but they won't identify themselves. And he called up in complete panic at that point, and wanted some. What I was going to do is try and get him out of there, and with some witnesses. He just still wanted to stay. He felt.
Were they still there when you were there?
No, nothing. By the time we got there, there was nothing going on, and he didn't really want to leave. And so he just drove around. We didn't see anything, and since then there's been nothing. But in the meantime, I mean that afternoon, Friday afternoon, I called the Stars people and said, "What the hell's going on? We've got witness intimidation." They put me through to somebody in the FBI whose only concern seemed to be, how did I know that this man was going to be appearing before the grand jury? And I said, well, you've got a grotesque scandal. You've got a huge rogue operation, clearly intimidating this person. All you care about is the fact that I know that he's going to appear before the grand jury, and you can't get your priorities straight. And so he sort of backed off a bit, and said,
what was this guy's name?
He was David Rain in Little Rock.
David Rain?
He's
in Little Rock?
Yeah, it turns out I now realize the poor guy was totally out of his depth. He's not even with Stars people in Little Rock. He's a regular local FBI. So they just put me through to somebody who was completely, it was just silly.
Why Little Rock, for instance?
Well, I tried the Washington office and didn't have any luck. Everybody left, or they weren't taking my call.
Oh, really?
And then I went straight through to. I just called Debbie Gershman at the press office in Little Rock and said, "Look, this is what's happening. I need to talk to somebody." But in the process of doing this, they were alerted that this was known and was going to be written about.
This is what you're writing about this week.
Well, I've done a little story that about this, and Chris is going to be writing about it. So it's going to be out in London tomorrow.
People are astonished. I mean, how come this is in London and you don't have a word about it over here? I mean, it's incredible.
Well, we got 3 number plates from the people who are curb crawling, and I've only managed to get one of them tracked so far, and it's to the U.S. government undercover. The other 2 I'm waiting on word. So
undercover could be any.
Well, I think I know which agency it is. but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Okay.
I would be disclosing my source if I said.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid, my original thought was, well, maybe it's the Saudis or whatever it could be, but it's not.
Sure. Probably the Presidential Protection Division.
It could be. Yeah, it could be something like that. It could be.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of people, and Chris was saying they even had some, kind of dressed up as, one bag lady type.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the whole team out there.
Oh my God! What a story! What a story!
The thing is, it's very hard to prove, and what I think they're trying to do is just get this guy. I mean, part of this guy's story is that he saw somebody making a menacing, giving a menacing look, and they want to make it appear as if he sees it everywhere, as if he's paranoid. That's my guess. So that by the time he testifies on Tuesday, they've already reduced him to an incredible witness. But I don't think they were quite counted on the fact that Chris Riley was going to be with him. And this will be moved on and reported so quickly, because I think it's I may be deceiving myself, but I mean I think they really did not expect that.
What time is he appearing on the grand jury?
12 o'clock.
You going to be there?
Hopefully. Hopefully they'll be around. I mean, I can't.
Well, I think let's see. Where is it?
I've got the file here. Hold on. I've got a copy of this subpoena. So it's the FBI guy who delivered the subpoena. It was excoriating Chris and myself.
Oh, he was.
It's at the U.S. District Court at 3rd and Constitution, 3rd floor, November 1st, 12 noon.
I think we got a big crew of reporters there as we can, don't you?
Yeah, I think the more attention, the better.
I think we can even energize the AP and get Pete Yost over there.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
They didn't do very well on the forgery story.
No, that's a terrific story.
Yeah.
And I've just been looking at the internet tonight, and there's a massive exchange on it.
Is that so?
Yeah, a lot of people picked it up. I mean, I was just looking at the piece in the Boston Herald. Of course, they get all the, they're saying that the thing was funded by SCAFE, and they said that SCAFE funds the strategic investments. All of this is inaccurate. But it's just sort of general sloppiness.
Who said that? The Boston Herald?
Boston Herald. I mean, it was not an unfriendly piece in the sense that it at least wrote about the story. Senator Lieberman was on a radio show yesterday on the Don Imus show, and he said, this needs to be investigated, the forgery, and until the thing was settled, it would cast a shadow over the White House. So it's getting quite a bit of attention. And,
well, it's going to get a lot more. I mean, I think this thing they're trying to intimidate Knowlton is...
it's absolutely incredible. I mean, Chris, at first, when he first heard about it, he was just dubious. He was thinking that maybe Knowlton was paranoid and so forth, until he experienced it himself.
Oh, yeah.
He says, absolutely no doubt. And when you've been subjected to that kind of overt surveillance technique, you know exactly what's happened to you. It's happened to me once in Little Rock, and you know exactly what they're doing.
Well, that may be the biggest story of all. But,
three number plates, and I think we can learn a lot from that. They managed to get a couple of photos of people doing it, and they panic, put their hands in front of their face.
Oh, really? Who got the photos?
Patrick got, I think Chris got one. Patrick got one last night. He went out with a flash and got one guy out on the porch there who put his hands up to his face.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one good thing about this guy is he's as stubborn as a mule.
Well, I can see that. He tried 20 times to get him to change his story.
Well, there's another element to this which I haven't written about and I haven't told you about, which I think is why they are so terrified about him.
Why is that?
Well, it's a story I'm working on. And,
Give me a hint.
I mean, I can give you an idea, but essentially, there are grounds for suspecting that they tried to intimidate him between his FBI statements. In other words, when he originally went there, and they interviewed him twice, and he gave his version of events, and he wouldn't change. And then they called him back sometime later. It was about 2 weeks before the Fisk report was finally released, 3 weeks before, to try and get him once and for all to adapt his story.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that he was his car was smashed up.
Wow.
He was recalled to Washington. He came in that night, and that night they smashed it to pieces.
Oh my God! I mean, just vandalism, or?
Well, the park police investigated it. It was one of the park police detectives who did the Foster case, and they dropped the ball.
What do you mean?
Well, they didn't pursue it. They said they couldn't. They said that they couldn't. They had the number plate of the car that did it. And so
the car. I see.
There was a witness. There was a retired DC policeman sitting who was working as a limo driver, and he had a cell phone. He witnessed the whole thing, and he immediately called the police.
The car rammed into.
No, the car parked next to his. The guy had a crowbar or something like that on the seat or under the seat of his seat. He picked it up, and he went over, and he smashed Patrick's car to pieces.
Oh, and this
Patrick it was the Vietnam Memorial. Patrick had just gone out to show a visiting friend the memorial, and then while he was there, he didn't see this. His car was smashed up. When he got back a few minutes later, the police were already arriving. Glass everywhere, but there was a witness.
Yeah. Did he get a license number?
Yeah. Now, I know who this individual is.
Yeah.
And I'm working on him. And I think that may help to explain a great deal. So this isn't the first. The thing is that he's so sort of kind of stubborn. I mean, many people would have realized what was being done to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was suspicious. So suspicious, in fact, that when he was at the FBI the next day, and he was looking out into the impoundment lot where the cars were.
Yeah.
He had a look around to see if he could identify that same car.
Yeah.
But so he was suspicious, but he really didn't take the message as it was intended.
Yeah.
And he didn't change his story.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I gotta meet this guy. Was there any chance I can meet him?
Well, yeah. I'll
see if he'd like to see me. And,
I'll tell him about you, and
I think maybe the best thing for his protection is to get some spotlight focused on.
Yeah, I think he feels that.
I've been thinking for some time we've got to somehow get more media interested in this story.
Well, it's hard for them to justify that not calling any of the crime scene witnesses up. I mean, that really is just. But here we got. I mean, if we know who this person is who smashed up the car, then I think we get very close to.
Very close.
Doing what is behind this.
Yeah. So you think Starr is more embarrassed than intrigued, huh?
Well, I think like all of us, I kind of blow hot and cold on Starr.
Yeah.
But basically, I've been becoming more and more skeptical.
Yeah.
And you just have to look at his actions.
Yeah, I have another thought. About one of the things I wondered about Knowlton. He said he noticed the front driver's seat was pushed forward. That's a strange thing kind of a funny thing to notice.
Well, the thing is, what I asked him, I said, how was the front driver's seat?
Yeah.
And he stopped and he said, look, the jacket was, but they somewhat changed what he said about the jacket, because the jacket was not folded up.
Yeah.
It was actually hanging on the seat as if he was on a coat hanger.
You mean over the back of the seat? Or?
Yeah, over the back of the seat, as if the seat was wearing the jacket.
Yeah, okay.
He's got an extraordinary memory, this guy. Very, very good visual memory.
Yeah.
He stopped for a moment, he thought. And he said it was level with the other seat. And it wasn't back. And we were looking at some pictures of the Hondas.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it wasn't back, because if it had been back from the angle I was at, I wouldn't have seen the way the jacket was hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So he just kind of did a snapshot memory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is, what is surprising about it is he does remember a lot. I mean, he remembered that those were not Foster's number plates he saw in the car.
In which car?
The car that he saw, allegedly Foster's car, the number plates were not RCN 504.
Well, they were first ran the plates and got the return to register to Foster, which is the story.
Yeah, but there's something wrong with the car.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was not Foster's car.
The brownish car?
Yeah. It's interesting. I called up. She was the one with the the Mercedes.
Yeah.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
She walked up into the park, and in her statement it said she saw, I think it was a silvery grey car, Foster's car, something like that. Grey.
Silvery grey.
I can't remember. Let's check the statement again. But anyway, it was one colour, and I said, "Well, what colour was it?" And I don't think she'd really looked at her statement. And she said, "Oh, it was a reddish, rust brown kind of colour."
That's the taupe.
Well, taupe is lighter. The car that Patrick saw, he believes, is a 1984 Honda Accord, because he went to the library and went through the different, models.
Oh, he was really thorough, wasn't he?
Well, he knew that something was wrong, and when he was discussing it with Larry Monroe, and he was saying, "Look, I know what car I saw," and Monroe actually sort of gave up with him and said, "Look, when you see the same model car on the street, same year, call me up, okay?"
Mm-hmm.
And then what? And he did. A few days later, he saw one. He said, "I've got it. I saw it. That's it." And so when I was talking to him, he went back again, went back to the library and went through it, and it was an 84. He said it was quite distinctive design from Foster's car. Foster was an 89. The wheels are different on Foster's car from the one he saw, from the pictures of Foster's car that we now have.
Now, you said that they showed him a blue car with fancy wheels and a dent in the back. Was that the real Foster car?
Right. Well, the one we've got. No. Wait a second. Actually, this is where it gets really confusing, because when I say the real Foster car, I'm talking about the one that they reproduced pictures of in the banking committee documents. Again, for the sake of argument, obviously, they showed him those pictures.
Well, it's hard to tell from those pictures because they're not in color.
Right. That's right.
So you can't tell too much from them.
But the thing is that there were a number of characteristics to the car he saw that then correspond to Foster's car as it's described in all the documents. As it's described, for example, I've got a copy of the original Arkansas Department of Transport, whatever it is, document on the car. He believes, and I think he may be right, that he saw a different car with Arkansas plates, the same car that saw, same car that saw. At some point, Foster's car, that car disappeared. Foster's car was introduced into the equation. At what point and how and when, I don't know. Why they would have done that, I don't know.
God, that's really strange.
There was no Vanderbilt University sticker on there.
Oh, he said that specifically?
Yeah, I asked him, well, do you see the stickers? And I showed him the pictures.
Yeah.
And he said, no. He said, I would have seen that. I mean, this guy kind of has these snapshot memories of things.
I was impressed when I read his statement. I said, gee, this guy he's about the sharpest of all the witnesses who were out there. He seemed to have the most precise memory of any of them.
He said he looked at the number plate.
Yeah.
He saw it was an Arkansas plate, and he was thinking about that.
Yeah.
His own car, he drives a Peugeot 504, and he said that just would have, if it had been a 504, he would have twigged, it just would have stuck in his mind. Mm-hmm. He says that he thinks it had fewer letters before the numbers, of two letters and four numbers, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Arkansas.
Yeah.
But because he remembered thinking about these hicks from Arkansas leaving a briefcase lying amount of detail, in fact, and a lot of things we haven't even fully discussed. That he
would that blow the whole thing?
Well, they wanted to make it look, I think, as if Foster had been in the park for some time to account for the huge period when we never knew where he was. Make it look as if he'd been in the car in the park for a couple of hours or something.
But look, I mean, the car they towed down to the police, that was the car, wasn't it?
Well, I've got a story coming out on that. I can't say any more.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
The car. Look at the car. I think the car is going to be very revealing.
Is that so? What about all the stuff that was in the car? They
switched it across. That's why the jacket, when it was found as, it wasn't exactly the same spot in the seat. It wasn't. Little changes have been made.
Boy, this really points into the park police, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh boy. Wow.
But it's interesting. I mean, why did they change testimony on the color of the car?
Oh, they changed her testimony too?
Well, what she told me was not what was in her statement.
Yeah.
She was totally unaware of that, of course, and not interested in knowing either.
She said that?
Well, I remarked, it says here, and she just sort of shrugged her, I was on telephone, she just wasn't interested in, she said, this is so old, fed up with it.
Is that so? So what's the difference now? They said in the...
I have to dig it up. The color that she gave was much more consistent with the official color, Foster's color, which is the taupe gray.
Yeah.
Gray. Well, gray. It's gray in the official. In the original. I mean, if you can bear with me a second. State of Arkansas. Registration certificate says it's gray.
Oh.
You might. By the way, the first incident report submitted by the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue says it's brown.
Yeah.
So that same color as the original crime scene witnesses.
Yeah. But you said on the story on Knowlton, you said they kept showing him a photo of a blue car.
Yeah, that is totally inexplicable.
With Foster's license tags.
Yeah. That is just totally inexplicable.
What the hell were they trying to do?
I don't know.
Get him to say that
I think he's trying to say that he says that the other car in the lot was blue, and he's certain about that. And he got the impression at one point maybe they were trying to suggest that the other car was Foster's car, but he didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
The thing is, and he'd never seen any of these statements, and so it wasn't until I showed him his statement to some of the others saying the car was brown.
Yeah.
He said, "I thought I'd been going mad for 2 years."
Yeah. How do you? I don't know if I've ever talked to you. How do you think about the key, the car key?
Well, that's another thing that's absolutely extraordinary. I think it's a very important story, and this may tie into the question of the cars here. I just don't know how it ties in. I mean, clearly they just lied. I mean, the keys were put in the pocket at the morgue.
If it wasn't Foster's car, where was his car?
Maybe having some new glass put in. Maybe having the seat cleaned up. I don't know.
Where were the keys?
It's totally baffling. I mean, my hypothesis is that somehow they got disturbed. I mean, maybe CW, something just screwed up their plan. Whatever they were trying to do and everything was thrown off balance, and they never managed to do anything properly after that. And silly mistakes like not having the keys where they should have been, occurred in that sort of panic. That's the only way I can envisage it. Well, I think somebody needs to do some work on other Arkansas cars, Hondas, 84 Hondas, for example, with Arkansas plates, and who in the White House, and who in the group of people that came up to Washington had a 84 Honda at that time. I mean, I imagine they would have sold it shortly afterwards because there contaminated. But
yeah, but you're thinking that the car they towed this car somewhere else and put a different car in down at their parking lot.
They switched when Foster's car was ready. They put Foster's car there instead.
You think? Or do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. No, maybe it's just maybe that's what happened.
See, I think I always thought myself. I noticed that business about gray or brown, and I thought, well, these people are just not being very accurate about the description.
Well, you see, but that's what I thought. And but when you actually talk to the witnesses, they're perfectly accurate.
They're pretty.
It's just that
they're pretty consistent.
Their statements have been tweaked
because
what they did. You see, I think every time they've tweaked testimony for some purpose, it's very revealing. Like the decision to put Virginia tags on that blue car.
Yeah.
But it didn't have Virginia tags on it.
Yeah.
There was something else they said about it. They said it was a Japanese car.
Yeah.
He did not say it was a Japanese car.
Yeah.
These are all clues.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that by that point that Larry Monroe was involved in covering it up.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, when they went to the crime lab, FBI crime lab, there was a forensic guy there in the lab, and he said, jokingly, when they were talking about these cars, well, sort of half-jokingly, Monroe was there and Patrick was there. He said, well, maybe they should run every 1980s Honda with Arkansas plates in that's been at the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry Monroe just sort of looked at him and just sort of said, we take care of that stuff,
Yeah.
Put him in his place.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, listen, I've taken a lot of your time, and I do want to. Of course, you can turn back your watch. It's only 9. It's only 9.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye.
Hey YouTube channel. Oh, I'm just kind of playing some random things. These are just that was an Ambrose Evans Pritchard on Vince Foster. He's oh gosh, and he's some European reporter, I believe, that was doing the Vince Foster that was reporting on the Vince Foster investigation, which I think was covered up by Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, I got another article right here I was reading while that was playing. This was published in September 5th of 2018 by Dean W. Arnold. And he just goes on to say, whatever else Brett Kavanaugh's qualifications for the Supreme Court, whatever else may be Brett Kavanaugh's qualifications for the Supreme Court, one of them is the ability to cover up a death investigation. So I am one of these people that think Brett Kavanaugh covered up the murder of Vince Foster by letting it be thought that it was a suicide. I mean, it's one of these things where it's like people would, might say it's a conspiracy theory to believe such a thing. But when I was like looking into it, this isn't something I did like a detailed investigation on or anything. It's just like glancing at a few videos, reading a couple of articles. It sounds fishy to me. It sounds like he helped Clinton get away with murder, basically. And we see Donald Trump nominating Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court after he covered up a murder that it looks like that Clinton was involved in, right? And I always remember back to when Trump, right after he got elected, the crowd started chanting, "Lock her up, lock her up," thinking, he's going to go after Hillary Clinton. And Trump goes, "Nah, that played good before the election, but now, nah, you don't want that." And so it's like, these like people that were cheering for him, it's like, oh, nah, you're stupid. That was just before the election. But anyways, this Kavanaugh served as the prosecutor for the investigation of the 1993 death of White House counsel Vince Foster, a close associate of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Kavanaugh was one of the prosecutors who took over when lead prosecutor Miguel Rodriguez resigned in disgust after his aggressive probe was blocked by the Office of Independent Counsel. They told me to quote, "This is a quote, back off. It was either back off or back down. They used both," Rodriguez said in a tapped phone recordings with Accuracy and Media president Reed Irving, who regularly appeared with Ted Koppel on ABC's Nightline to discuss the investigation headed by Ken Starr. In the official memo, Rodriguez said he believed Foster's corpse was staged with the revolver by Park police officers. Early concerns with Kavanaugh's involvement emerged when he refused to acknowledge key witnesses. Patrick Knowlton's clear testimony that the car at the Foster death scene was an early 80s brown Honda. The official report showed a picture of a late 80s gray Honda, although the license plate is whited out. If Foster did not drive his own car to the death scene, the official story of suicide breaks down. Irving also taped his conversations with Kavanaugh. So Kavanaugh says, the question is whether there is evidence other than no one saw it being moved out. And it had Arkansas plates. Irving, but all these witnesses saw a brown car, not a gray one. Maybe it wasn't Foster's car. Kavanaugh, people were screwed up on colors, period. But Kavanaugh truly showed his colors for protecting the establishment when he interrogated Knowlton directly on the stand during a grand jury hearing, particularly regarding a suspicious man Knowlton saw at the crime scene. The official report claims no one suspicious was ever identified. Did he pass? Hold on, did I go too far? Did the man talk to you? Kavanaugh asked. No, Knowlton replied. Did he pass you a note? No. Did he point a gun at you? No. Did he touch your genitals? Knowlton became visibly angry at the suggestion. Are you a good citizen, Mr. Knowlton? Kavanaugh continued with his bitter sarcasm. Are you a good Samaritan? Knowlton said it was one of the worst 3 hours of his life. Irving recounted the incident to the already replaced Rodriguez. So Rodriguez, who asked him if he touched his genitals? Irving says, Kavanaugh. Rodriguez, how could Brett stoop so low? I can't believe Brett did that. What they are trying to do is discredit him by making him out to be, a homosexual cruising at the park. Rodriguez knew Knowlton had been harassed in other ways. He told Irving prosecutors also harassed him. Rodriguez, I was unable to call witnesses and issue subpoenas. I know what they are capable of doing. That includes throwing tantrums and throwing chairs. The independent counsel themselves and the FBI beat me back and, in fact, threatened me. The park police were never asked tough questions. I tried to ask them tough questions, and they beat the hell out of me. It was just bass backwards. Okay, I won't. Because of the serious problems, Miguel Rodriguez took powerful evidence he had gathered to Ken Starr himself and explained the harassment he received from his colleagues. Starr took it under advisement but did nothing. I don't know if I want to read this whole article. I'll kind of pause it on the screen for a little bit. Copy and paste it into the chat. People want to read it. I don't want to keep reading it. I'm kind of tired. I feel like everything I'm doing is very dry right now. I was actually hoping someone would come on my show and talk about something totally different. But I never saw anyone click the link to join, so this is the show, because I was just doing kind of like a hangout, because normally someone's got questions, wants to ask me something, and I was going to give people a chance, and so this show is what it is. So 50 facts about Hillary's dead lover, Vince Foster, that will convince you he was murdered. Oh, so that's what this is all about. Oh boy. How do I get a hold of this? Let's see if I can find this. I am kind of curious about this article. Trying to see if I can dig it up online somehow. Since it's a broken link. Well, there's no way of finding it. So I was trying to look for, I was hoping I could maybe find it on the Wayback Machine or something, but it looks like it's nowhere to be found. So anyway, I guess I'll just keep playing clips of different things. So
even sooner. So it's a lot of good things are happening.
About 9% of all children died before the age of 5.
They have to get the shot.
Now, that number is about 4%. And these vaccines that Kavi got out have been critical to that.
The vaccinations are so important.
So it really is a miracle. You can read more about vaccines and the investments we've made at gatesletter.com.
I will certainly advocate that everyone is able to receive the vaccine regardless of income or any other circumstance.
They have to get their shot. Our task is so urgent that
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Results
Operation
Hunter.
Warp Speed, the federal government will invest in manufacturing all of the top vaccine candidates before they're approved. So we're knowing exactly what we're doing before they're approved. That means they better come up with a good vaccine because we're ready to deliver it.
We're ready to deliver it.
I love this one.
I have one thing to say.
Sick.
Do you mind putting your mask back on? Do you mind putting your mask back on?
I love this one.
I have one thing to say.
Sick.
But like sick in a good way.
Mask. It's sick.
Obsessed.
It's sick.
Obsessed.
Brandon said it, but you must be hot.
I'm feeling so satisfied. But like sick in a good way.
Hi, COVID.
Hello.
Welcome back to Magician Word. This one is unbelievable. Even though I attribute it to a tremendous coincidence, let me know in the comments what you think. Could it be that in spring 2019, a contestant named COVID on Project Runway predicted mask fashion and the fact that we'd all be sitting around in our pajamas? You make the decision.
Hi, COVID.
Let me know in the comments.
Will you tell us about your head-to-toe look?
When I was designing, I just wanted to play around with pattern and kind of break down the monotony of what otherwise Plaid could do.
As somebody
I
who
just started
literally
cutting
came
it
from
up.
that
I wanted
industry.
to create shapes. I wanted to create volume.
What I loved here is the boldness of that print.
As soon as she walked out, I thought, oh, she's sick. As soon as she walked out,
I thought, oh, she's sick, but like sick in a good way. It's sick. The outfit is sick.
I loved COVID's look. Thank you. Do you mind putting your mask back on?
Notice COVID's detail, this 3D applique.
I mean, it just gets better. You should probably take the mask off.
Yeah.
Can you breathe in there? A little bit. A little better like It's a good look, but we want to keep you alive. It's a good look, but we want to keep you alive. Do you mind putting your mask back on? Do you mind putting your mask back on?
Hey YouTube, it's Eric. This is me a quick stream here. I'm going to be this information I wanted to include in my recent video on the Jesuit connections to the Rockefeller Empire and how the Standard Oil Trust was modeled off of the Jesuit order. Because this just complements the information in that video very well. But right around this time in 1903, when the Rockefeller Empire was taking over the United States, and like taking over the world economy, really. You had this Archbishop of Chicago, James Edward Quigley. He made this announcement. I'm going to show you. I have the original source document from 1903 here from the Chicago Tribune, May 5th, 1903. But Archbishop Quigley literally says that when the United States of America rules the world, that the Roman Catholic Church will rule the world. And he boasted about this right at the time when the Standard Oil Trust was taking over the United States. And again, if you haven't seen that video that I did recently, I recommend you check that out. The Standard Oil Trust was modeled off of the Jesuit order. But it's interesting the timing. Again, in 1903, this is when the Archbishop of Chicago chose to make this statement. And this is him here. He was actually Canadian born. He was born in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. James Edward Quigley. He was the Bishop of New York and then Archbishop of Chicago. There's an Archbishop Quigley Preparatory Seminary named after him in Chicago, which is now a U.S. National Historic Site. Or there it is there. This has some pretty interesting alumni, to say the least, like the Archbishop of New York during 9/11, Cardinal Egan. Cardinal Edward Egan went here. Another Egan that went to the seminary was Saul Alinsky's priest, the Roman Catholic priest, puppet master of Saul Alinsky. And Saul Alinsky is a big figure in the Democratic Party. Like Jesuitess Hillary Clinton wrote her college master's thesis on Saul Alinsky, I believe. Something like that. And John Joseph Egan, the puppet master of Saul Alinsky, also marched with Jesuit puppet Martin Luther King. If you're unaware, Martin Luther King received 3 Jesuit honorary degrees, 2 or 3, and you can even see a photo of him with the Pope and the head of the Vatican Mafia, Vatican Bank, Archbishop Marcinicus, who is deeply, Marcinicus was all over the Sindona and Calvi banking scandals in the 1980s. And you can see a photo of him with Martin Luther King. But the point being, there's some very interesting alumni at this Archbishop Quigley Seminary, which is now a U.S. National Historic Site. And the Archbishop Quigley boasted how in 1903, when the Catholic Church, or the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. It's interesting, too, that you got 7 Roman Catholics now in the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court is a Roman temple. You have the Catholics have a clear majority in the U.S. Senate. They have a majority in the U.S. Congress. They have majority in all of the, quote, alphabet agencies. There's Roman fasces in the U.S. House of Representatives. There's actually a plaque of 2 popes. If you're unaware of this, let's get to this here. Most Americans definitely don't know that the popes of the Inquisition are in the House of Chamber in the U.S. Capitol building. Again, the popes of the Inquisition. Look up the history of these popes: Innocent III and Gregory IX. If you have Manhattan's book Catholic Imperialism and World Freedom, he quotes Gregory IX saying that the whole world must be like a fiefdom of the papacy. And then Innocent III famously launched the ethnic cleansing of the Albigenses and the Waldenses at that time, launched the Inquisition and the Crusades. I say that they're in the U.S. House in plaque form, and they're actually cited as being the models of American law, incredibly. And they also like you can see the whole collection. They have the King of Babylon, King Hammurabi in plaque and form. They got a whole bunch of other Roman emperors, like Roman Emperor Justinian is in plaque form. Again, the whole legal system that we're living under, the whole concept of a legal fiction is a Roman law. It's Roman legal law. But to the point being, the United States is clearly a fiefdom of the Roman Catholic Church at this point. He had this archbishop bragging about this in 1903, that when the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. Here's the article here. See, I'm not making it up. The Chicago Daily Tribune. It's this article here on the right side where I'm highlighting Quigley as an optimist, and then I have the full article underneath here. Shout out! It was Johnny Cerrucci who gave me this article through newspapers.com a couple years ago. So shout out to Johnny Cerrucci for that. See, I'm just going to read this article. Just take into context. This was written right as the Rockefeller Empire was taking over the United States. So you got the Archbishop of Chicago, Quigley here. Quigley as an optimist. He, quote, sees wonderful growth of Roman Catholic Church. Standing as the only man, and so he was speaking at this kind of sodality movement for like a female sodality within the Catholic Church. Standing the only man among 800 women, the Archbishop declares that he has been deeply impressed by the progressive spirit of the West, forecast the time when the Roman religion he represents will lead the world. Again, just look at the Vatican Healthcare Conference that took place in May 2021. Look at the names of attendees at that Vatican Healthcare Conference. And you tell me that the Vatican isn't leading the world right now after looking at that huge list of influential speakers at the Vatican Healthcare Conference. They're clearly running the world right now. You see, since I have been, so this is a quote from Archbishop Quigley. Since I have seen the Western patriarchal schools, he's talking about the Catholic schools in the United States. Since I have seen the Western patriarchal schools, I have come to the conclusion that in 50 years, if things go on as I see they are going on at present, the Catholic Church will actually own the West, end quote. They'll own the West. Well, think about this. Every single governor on a U.S. border state is Roman Catholic. Think that's a coincidence? As the Jesuits are pushing this massive invasion of Catholic Hispanics coming over the border, every single governor on the southern border state is Roman Catholic? Huh. You got groups like the Jesuit Kino Initiative, where the biggest advocates for illegal immigration. And actually, just interesting on that point, I was watching Tucker Carlson actually just rightfully called out that America is being invaded on the southern border on his show a couple nights ago, but particularly Tucker Carlson didn't bring in the Catholic angle of that invasion. But who knows? Maybe he'll get there. The Pope's NSA is supposedly spying on Tucker Carlson now. If you aren't aware, I covered this. The logo of the NSA, they admit the silver key in this logo represents the Pope's temporal power. So this is showing that Archbishop Quigley was correct. Like what he said, like when the United States became to rule the world order, the Catholic Church therefore became the ruler of the world. We see here's the logo of the National Security Agency. You see that this is the eagle. This is the Pope's silver key. You see? And you see, this is the same silver key. Above this, I show a papal crest of Pope Benedict XVI. Every pope gets his own crest. Francis has his own. You see, this is the exact same papal key. You can see the cross there. You see here, this is quoting from the National Security Agency. And I link the sources here. The dexter and sinister talons of the bird clutch a silver key. The key in the eagle's talons representing the key to security evolved from the emblem of Saint Peter the Apostle, the supposed first pope, and his power to loose and to bind. It also symbolizes the mission to protect and gain access to secrets. That's coming from the NSA's own website. They say that this key is the key to security. It's the emblem of Saint Peter the Apostle. That's the first pope. I literally quote the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and you see here quoted that the Pope is the successor of St. Peter. See, St. Peter and the rest of the apostles constitute a single apostolistic college. So in like fashion, the Roman pontiff, Peter's successor, and the bishops, the successors of the apostles, are related and united to one another. So it's telling you right there that key is the Pope's key on the NSA. You wonder why no one in the quote-unquote alternative media talks about it. Jesuit control runs very deep. Okay, but going back here to Archbishop Quigley. I'm just going to, this video will be fairly short. I'm just going to read this article and sign off here. I wanted to just add this information to the video I did on John D. Rockefeller a couple days ago. Well, absolutely, man. Tucker Carlson's definitely a gatekeeper. I've never seen it being called out as an invasion, which is, I've been saying that the Jesuits are invading the United States southern border with Roman Catholic immigrants for like 3 or 4 years now. So, but it's interesting to see Tucker use the word invasion. But again, predictably, he is a gatekeeper. He didn't bring up the Catholic and Jesuit angle to it. Like Jesuit Joe Biden, the current president, really wrote the foreword to Jesuit Leo O'Donovan's book titled "Blessed Are the Refugees," which is a whole tract is advocating a mass Roman Catholic invasion of the U.S. Southwest. That same Jesuit Leo Donovan, you can see here in a photo with Bill Gates. You can also see a photo of this Jesuit Leo Donovan with pedophile Harvey Weinstein. Leo Donovan, who Biden wrote the foreword for his pro-immigration book, was on the board of directors of Disney, joined the Disney board in 1996. Look at that. And he gave the invocation at Joe Biden's swearing-in ceremony on January 20th. So you can see, like, and if you look at a chart, like since Biden took office, there's literally a spike of hundreds of thousands of more illegal immigrants are coming over the border. All by design. Okay, so you see here, so Archbishop Quigley said the Catholic Church will actually own the West. So back to the Chicago Tribune. Such was the optimistic declaration of Archbishop Quigley last month for the Children of Mary's Sodality at the Holy Name Parish School, Chicago Avenue and Cass Street. The occasion was the reception given to the Archbishop by the members of the Sodality, and the prelate was the only man in a gathering of 800 women. The Archbishop was introduced in a brief speech by the Reverend John J. Code. I wonder if this guy was a Jesuit. The Reverend John J. Code, who then disappeared, leaving the Archbishop alone among the women of the Sodality. His opening words were devoted to a series of graceful compliments to his hearers. So here's more quotes from Archbishop Quigley. You see this, so the title is "Find Chicago as Represented." Before I came to this city, I had heard that Chicago people were given to boasting, and he said, Quigley, then continuing quote, "Now I fear I am coming to be something of a boaster myself where Chicago is concerned. Since I had been here, I have found Chicago just as the boasters had represented it. It is true that I have seen little of the city." So here you go. He hasn't even seen the whole city of Chicago, and he's boasting about it. Just kind of shows the arrogance of the priesthood. But continuing, "They have kept me so busy up at my residence, I have not had the time to see Chicago. Why, I have hardly been downtown yet. I'm looking forward to the time when I am going to go down into the city all alone and become lost in Chicago. However, I've had the opportunity to see a few of the churches and schools in the diocese, and I have gained some idea of what a magnificent big Catholic city Chicago is." Again, you look up the Chicago fires that took place in Chicago. It was the Jesuit church. You know, coincidentally, it was one of the only buildings that didn't burn down in the fire in Chicago. The Haymarket riots, which took place on May 4th, a date of 54 numerology, Jesuit order equals 54. That took place in the Chicago area. And again, Chicago is a very Catholic city. All you have to look up is the Balbo Monument, which the Roman Catholic fascist dictator Mussolini gifted to the city of Chicago in 1933. An ancient Roman column that is approximately 2,000 years old, dating from 111 and 38 BC. It was taken from an ancient port town outside Rome by fascist Roman Catholic dictator Benito Mussolini, who signed the Lateran Treaty with the Vatican and gifted to the city of Chicago in 1933. Well, I thought fascism was the enemy. Why is the city of Chicago accepting monuments from fascist dictators? And these monuments are Roman columns. You see the Roman fasces all over the columns. So this gift was to honor the transatlantic flight led by Italo Balbo. Balbo is the heir apparent to Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. So the Chicago was honoring a flight by a fascist politician, Italo Balbo, to the Century of Progress World's Fair. So the Chicago hosted the World's Fair in 1933, and Balbo, the fascist politician, did a flight around the Atlantic Ocean. So I assume he probably started at Chicago, flew around the Atlantic, and came back to Chicago. But this is a fascist politician doing this, Italo Balbo, and the gift was given by a fascist Roman Catholic dictator to the city of Chicago. It's just kind of like, that's kind of odd, don't you think? Like America, a country that espouses about like freedom and democracy and all that stuff. Interesting, eh? And of course, Benito Mussolini had a Jesuit priest as his confessor, Father Taci Venturi, S.J. So Chicago, as the Archbishop has said here, it's a very big Catholic city. He says here, I'm just going to read that quote again. I have gained some idea of what a magnificent, big Catholic city Chicago is. Since I've come here, I have visited Joliet, and in that city, I visited one of the periarchical schools. It was the first time I'd seen a periarchical school in the West. So this is where he says here that America is going to rule the world. This is a fascinating quote here. And again, this quote is from this Archbishop James Quigley of Chicago. Again, his Archbishop Quigley Preparatory Seminary is now is in the National Register of Historic Places in the United States. There it is there. It's adjacent to Jesuit Loyola University Chicago's water tower. Would you look at that? Of course, it's adjacent to the Jesuit school. Unbelievable. Okay, we see here, so America to rule the world. Within 20 years, this is from Archbishop Quigley. And they're saying this again in 1903, right when the Rockefeller Empire is taking over the U.S. economy and the world economy. It says with Standard Oil, within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world. And again, Standard Oil was modeled off the Jesuit order, but continuing, within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take their place. The West will dominate the country, and what I have seen of the Western periarchical schools has proved that the generation which follows us will be exclusively Catholic. When the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. Let's repeat that again. Within 20 years, this country, the United States, is going to rule the world. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take their place. The West will dominate the country, and what I have seen of the Western periarchical schools has proved that the generations which follows us will be exclusively Catholic. When the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. And Quigley continues, the people of the East do not know the importance of Chicago in the West. The Catholics know that Chicago is one of the great Catholic centers of the world. What I'm showing you here, like the gift from the Roman Balbo monument, gift from fascist Roman Catholic dictator Benito Mussolini to the city of Chicago, proves that without a shadow of a doubt. That Chicago is indeed one of the great Catholic centers of the world. And even on my website, if you look at the architecture in downtown Chicago, it literally looks like ancient Rome. But actually, look at the Chicago City Hall building. Look at this. There's a photo of a Roman military fasces above the entrance of the Chicago City Hall building. And right now, you got the puppet Lori Lightfoot in office. She's got her Jesuit-trained advisor, Pierre Clausen, her chief of staff in the background. She's just a puppet face, Lori Lightfoot. She's she's being sued in court right now, but she came out with that racist policy actually recently too, where she said she wasn't going to interview any white people. But she is being sued in court for that now, so hopefully she he loses. But yeah, the Jesuits promote race. Like the Jesuits are the masters of promoting racism, and they've created a whole racial sex. Just look at how the Basque separatist movement in Spain, which the Jesuits have been all over since like the 1860s, creating racial division, racial strife, racial tension. But you see, there's the fasces at the Chicago City Hall. And I had a photo here of the Cook County Courthouse. Jim J. Edgar Hoover, after 1 year after the murder of John F. Kennedy, received his Jesuit sword of Ignatius Loyola in Chicago at Loyola University, which is adjacent to the Archbishop Quigley Seminary. There's Inquisitor J. Edgar Hoover receiving his Jesuit, a replica of Ignatius's sword that he took into battle when he went to join in on the Crusades to go to the Holy Lands to murder the heretics, the Turk and Muslim heretics at the time. So here's the photo here. Photo of the Roman Empire resurrected in Chicago at the Cook County Criminal Courthouse. Fasces are present. And here you even see the ancient, like kind of the SPQC. This is an ancient ode to the Roman Empire here. It's amazing. Here's a Roman centurion holding two fasces. This is in the United States. This is why I call it Romerica. I call it Romerica for a reason. This is the Cook County Criminal Courthouse in ancient Rome in Chicago. So, absolutely, Washington in the lap of Rome. Actually, I have that book up on my archive.org page. People should check that out. Written by a Protestant priest, James Fulton, in 1888. That was a great book. So you see, Chicago is one of the great Catholic centers of the world. In 50 years, Chicago will be exclusively Catholic. In 50 years, Chicago will be exclusively Catholic. I can think of like the Roman Catholic Daley dynasty they've had like 3 or 4 mayors of Chicago. The Daley Catholic crime family. This may be said of the greater New York. So New York is now Roman Catholic, exclusively Catholic in 50 years, according to Archbishop Quigley. And the chain of big cities stretching across the continent to San Francisco. I'm going to repeat that. So he's saying every single big city in America will be exclusively Catholic in 50 years. And he's saying this in 1903. So by 1953, he's saying every single big city in America will be exclusively Catholic. In 50 years, Chicago will be exclusively Catholic. The same may be said of greater New York and the chain of big cities stretching across the continent to San Francisco. It has never forced itself on me, this conviction, as it has since I have been in Chicago. I am simply overcome by it. I am not telling you this to flatter you. I mean what I say. He says he means what he says. When I see what is going on, I am more than pleased. Nothing can stand against the church. See, nothing can stand against the church. And this is where he makes a threat. He actually makes a veiled threat to politicians in Chicago. He says who would dare to challenge the church. He says, I would like to see the politician who would try to rule against the church in Chicago. His reign would be short indeed. You look at that. Again, that's a threat of violence. He says, I would like to see the politician who would try to rule against the church in Chicago. His reign would be short indeed. Actually, right at this time, too, I guess this was probably a few years after, let me get the exact date, but you had Roman Catholic Charles Joseph Bonaparte. Actually, so 5 years later, you had the Roman Catholic Bureau of Investigation, which became the Federal Bureau of Investigation, formed just 5 years after the statement by Archbishop Quigley. And I'm going to show you this. I'll show you the quote. I've read this on this stream I did with George on the FBI, but the founder of the Bureau of Investigation, Charles Joseph Bonaparte, the Attorney General, the Jesuit puppet Theodore Roosevelt. Charles Joseph Bonaparte was as Catholic as one could be. He actually viewed non-Catholics as heretics. This is the founder of the FBI. But I'm just going to show you a quote from a biography on him. Yeah, I wrote this years ago here, a couple years ago. You see here, the FBI, before adopting the current name, was known as the BOI, Bureau of Investigation. The founder of the BOI was a descendant of Jesuit puppet Napoleon Bonaparte, a devout Catholic named Charles Joseph Bonaparte. So here's the quote here from, this is a biography called Joseph Bonaparte, His Life and Public Services by Bishop Joseph Buckland. He says, his Charles Joseph Bonaparte's militant loyalty to the Catholic Church was exhibited on all occasions. And here's actually a quote from Joseph Bonaparte where he's talking about how he can better align his dogma with the papal dogma of infallibility. This is just, it's incredible. Like, this history is totally occulted. The United States is the sword arm of the Roman Catholic Church. They have an archdiocese for the military services in the United States military. Pentagon building I showed in the last video on Rockefeller was modeled off of diagrams from Jesuits in the 1600s. And he had a Knight of Malta Jesuit-trained architect John McShane design the Pentagon. And here he calls at the very end, he calls this a professor at Harvard who wasn't a Catholic here, Dr. Peabody. He calls him a heretic because he's not Catholic. And again, this is the guy who founded the FBI. He's calling people who aren't Catholic heretics. Okay, so just for some context. Okay, so you see here, Archbishop Quigley threatening with violence politicians who would challenge the church in Chicago. And this is right as Standard Oil Company was taking over the U.S. economy. Continuing here, this encouragement for sodality. This sodality has the power. And again, it wasn't just like J.P. Morgan was a knight of St. Maurice and Lazarus. J.P. Morgan, another rock, he was probably the closest robber baron at that time to matching the wealth of John D. Rockefeller. J.P. Morgan was a Roman Catholic knight of St. Maurice and Lazarus. Let's look at guy Thomas Fortune Ryan was known as one of the richest men in Wall Street at this time. This guy was essentially a lay Jesuit, king of the tobacco industry. You see it right on his Wikipedia. Ryan was perhaps the greatest benefactor to the Roman Catholic Diocese of Richmond. Look at that. Robert Baron Thomas Fortune Ryan, American tobacco insurance and transportation magnate. And I've just Nicholas Frederick Brady, another one. His grandson was the Treasury Secretary in the Reagan administration. This is him here, Nicholas F. Brady, known for the Brady Plan. But his descendant, Nicholas Frederick. Right here, Nicholas Frederick Brady, New York City businessman, philanthropist, who was the first American to receive the Roman Catholic Church honor, the Supreme Order of Christ. This guy was a director of over 50 corporations. His when he died, his wife, at the time, the Duchess Brady, gifted his whole estate to the Jesuits. So this, the point being, like the robber baron class, what it's said is this is modern day papal black nobility. That's all it is. And there it is there. Brady estate goes to Jesuits from 1937. Yeah, so this is a culted history. The Rockefellers, and again, they often get, because they're like officially Baptist, there's propaganda that gets put out that Protestants are controlling American capitalism, you know, which is an absolute joke. And again, just look at the robber barons. The founder of the Anaconda Copper Company was it Daly. I'm just going to pull this up here. Another massive. It was Edmund Paris's book that, and the Vatican against Europe, where he said that's how the Vatican entered into the J.P. Morgan Empire during World War I, was through the Anaconda Copper Company. But who is the founder of the Anaconda Copper Company? One of the biggest, massive, monopolistic cartel capitalist firms in the United States at this time. Who was it? It was a Roman Catholic, Marcus Daly, and Daly's sister, Catherine Daly Rudden, gifted her estate to a Catholic priest. First president of U.S. Steel, Charles Schwab, Roman Catholic. Schwab then founded the Bethlehem Shipbuilding and Steel Company. And you see the Jesuitism just in the name, Bethlehem, the supposed birthplace or that's where Jesus is said to have been born. Again, you see sacrilegious Jesuits at it again. But the robber, it's amazing. I'm just bringing this up because like the robber baron class gets kind of smeared as being Protestant to many historians, according to many historians, which is completely ridiculous. It just shows that they're either covering for the church or they're just ignorant. Again, this information is very occulted. This is how Quigley ends off his grand statement here. This sodality has the power to accomplish much toward the advancement of the church. Your opportunity lies in the line of the help which you may find it in your power to give to your pastors. Unless some rare occasion should present itself, there is no way in which you may directly aid me, but the help you may give me through the organization I am in need of. It is by this and through the saving of your own souls that you can do the greatest good for the church. And again, I'm just going to read this quote one more time, just because it's very important just to understand the kind of context of what's going on today. This is Archbishop Quigley in 1903, and then I'm going to wrap it up after this. Check out some of the comments. He said, within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world, the United States. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take their place. The West will dominate the country, and what I've seen of the Western patriarchal schools has proved that the generation which follows us will be exclusively Catholic. Speaking of another Catholic robber baron that I'm just forgetting to mention right now, John Francis Keeney, founder of Monsanto, was a Knight of Malta and Roman Catholic. He's born in the Catholic city of Chicago. So look at that. John Francis Keeney, another Roman Catholic robber baron, founding for the Monsanto Chemical Works Company in St. Louis, Missouri, where the Jesuits have their Jesuit St. Louis University. And Monsanto has been poisoning the masses ever since, taking over the world economy via cartel capitalistic strategies, predatory pricing, so forth. Like there's I can think of a documentary, The Seeds of Destruction, a good documentary on Monsanto. But again, no one really brings up how it was a Roman Catholic who was connected with the Knights of Malta in the political hierarchy of the Vatican, John Francis Keeney, who founded Monsanto. That doesn't get brought up. Quigley says again, I'm just going to say this, when the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. You know, that's coming from an archbishop. So important history. And again, I recommend you check out this article. This is from the original Chicago Tribune, 1903. See, Tuesday, May 5th, 1903. Let me check out the chat here. Absolutely, the medical indulgences will be your carbon footprint, and I think that the BAP in this new Inquisition, it's a good carbon footprint will be your your indulgence, and your baptism will be your COVID vaccine. Your Roman Catholic baptism is now the COVID vaccine. Pope Francis is one of the biggest advocates of, and actually, it's just amazing how this works. So right before the G7 conference, he had Pope Francis come out and say that, oh, the rich countries in the world can't be hoarding the vaccines. Everyone must be given a vaccine. Pope Francis says that, and then a week later at the G7, they donate, 10 billion doses to the world? Literally doing exactly what the Pope told them to do at the G7. It's just interesting how that works out. The Pope says something, and then the puppets at the G7 echo exactly what the Pope says just a few days later. Huh. Napoleon's brother-in-law was Emperor of Mexico, Maximilian's. Oh, great information. Well, I know that was that's very interesting history in Mexico. Napoleon III, he dispatched a Habsburg. I believe it was Maximilian. He dispatched Emperor Maximilian of Habsburg to install him as the puppet of Mexico, but Benito Juarez put that treason down. And to this day, the fascists and Roman Catholics and the Jesuits that despise Benito Juarez, they hate him because he very greatly checked the power of the church in Mexico, and he put down that insurrection by Emperor Maximilian. Yeah, that's it. That gets talked about even this French intervention into Mexico. So you had Napoleon III dispatch a Habsburg, Maximilian of Habsburg, Archduke of Austria, and he was to be installed as the puppet of Mexico, but war has stamped that out. No, that's a good point. Good history there. Amber Lance, thanks for the comment. Yeah, Jeremy said Florida is Catholic. Absolutely. The first settlement in the United States, I believe, was St. Augustine. You can tell with the name St. Augustine, named after a Roman saint, doctor of the church, Augustine. St. Augustine, I believe, was the first settlement in the United States. And this is when the Roman Catholic Spaniards were colonizing the United States. And of course, California used to be a Spanish colony, Catholic Spanish colony as well. And that's evident in all the names of the cities. Like Los Angeles is a reference to the Virgin Mary, Queen of the Lady of Angels, which is the Virgin. Absolutely, Pedro. He said, lay the protocols, the Masonic creed and goals, and the 10 planks of communism, and you'll see that they are one and the same. Understand that the protocols were penned by a Jesuit. Absolutely, and I linked that. I found the exact copy. It was kind of hard to, on the last video on the Rockefellers, I had to do a lot of work to find this, but I found a copy of the Protocols of Zion, where they actually say that the Jesuits are the only group of men that compares to us. So clearly it was penned by a Jesuit. And again, I check out Leo H. Lehman's book, Behind the Dictators, for historical context and why the Jesuits penned the Protocols of Zion and what subsequently happened afterwards with the Roman Catholic Inquisitions of World War II with Hitler, Franco, Stalin, Mussolini, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think that's all for this one, guys. Archbishop Quigley of Chicago in 1903 said, when the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. And that's what we are seeing today unfold on the geopolitical stage. But thanks for the comments, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video.
All right, I think I'm going to be done. Yeah, I just wasn't really feeling like doing a lot of talking tonight. I just thought I'd play clips and give people a chance to come on if they wanted to, but no one ever clicked the StreamYard link. So, anyway, I'm going to do a show tomorrow at 2. I'm going to have, oh gosh, I'm spacing my friend's name. Steve Henry on, a reporter, and talk to him about some things and get his thoughts about things going on. Someone did ask earlier though, like, what do I think about Trump? Do I think the economy will get better? And I think it's just going to look real promising, and they'll crash it. Like right now, Bitcoin is going up in price because people think, Donald Trump's going to do all this good. And, it looks to me like Elon Musk likes to play with the with the whole Bitcoin, and I don't know this for certain, right? But my whole thinking is he likes to short Bitcoin, and also, like when it goes up, he likes to buy into it, and put some tweets out there to make the currency go up, and then everyone starts buying into it. And he knows when to take his money out of it. And I would think he would be placing his bets on like it going down. And I just think these people manipulate and play with the economy and cryptocurrency. And even though like Bitcoin, what is it, like $100,000 right now for Bitcoin? I bet there's a time that comes when that thing comes crashing down again. But it's like people will still hold on to it because they'll be like, but it'll just go back up. And I don't know. I get nervous putting money in Bitcoin just because I tried out cryptocurrency, and I just see. I mean, there's a couple of them that maintain their value, but for the most part, it always just looks like it's just like a game people like to play, and shorting the currencies and well, what do you call it? I guess it's called going long when it goes up, and then you short it when you think it's going to crash, and you can bet on it going both ways and make money. And I don't know, like I don't trust anything going on, to be honest. It's um and what I would think they would be doing is working out deals in some way to consolidate their wealth and gain wealth. And I never trust that these people are going to do something just to keep the economy on a constant trend upwards. I don't even know how it's sustainable. How do you sustain, like, what's the national debt right now? National debt. No, I didn't want relief. National debt. $36 trillion. How does that ever get paid back? Like, man, when I saw that they spent just 10 trillion on COVID alone, and then, you know, I think Biden started spending trillions of dollars. And it's just like, I look at total interest paid is 5 trillion. Interest per adult, $20,000. I don't know. I'm just gonna end this show. I don't have much more to say.